Welcome back. Today we're here to talk about Senate reforms. After attending the minor party meeting in Sydney, I left feeling a little bit like all hope is lost, and why is fairly simple, because with these reforms it pretty well is. Now, during a hearing that took a total of 241 minutes, or 4 hours, the voting future of this country was decided. Because you see, sources tell us that while Bob Day, Ricky Muir and Glenn Drury were being grilled by the greatest panel of self-interest ever assembled, off in a room not too far away, the Greens and the Liberals were busy signing off on the deal. While the hearings were still taking place, the Liberals were holding hands against ordinary Australians ever being heard in our Parliament ever again. Now, we aren't saying that the system doesn't need improving. We've never said that. We've said, fine, if you want to improve it, take it to an election, let people study the plans that you've got, let them decide if you like it. I don't think that a party that did not crack 10% of the vote should be speaking for 100% of the population. And for the record, can you explain why it is, if nobody cares, that a government gets elected after losing the election and then use preferences to steal government and run our lives? Because the outrage at the senators using preferences compared to the indifference to the ministers using preferences absolutely baffles us. The senators are being vilified because they blocked bad, hurtful policies the LNP were pushing. Yet the grubby House of Reps backroom preferences to control the country, well, they're just fine. No one cares about those, do they? I mean, give us a break, eh? They're killing any opposition that doesn't come from the real world, because that world just does not interest them anymore. And here's an example of why you will never see ordinary people in the Senate after this filthy deal gets finalised. In 2012 and 13, Clive Palmer started PUP. Now, Clive reportedly spent $26 million on his campaign. He had television spots, massive campaign features all over the place, an Australia-wide bombardment of our censors for weeks and weeks on end to get his people elected. Now, that works out at an average of $6 million per seat that was won by PUP. It's all about numbers, right? Primary numbers. Now, only primary votes in the future will be used to get elected. Okay, so let's look at first preference votes with the group ticket. That's where a party can run multiple senators in one state, then you add all their votes together and somebody gets elected if they had enough votes in that state. Now, PUP and Jackie Lambie got a total of 6.58% of first preferences in Tasmania. PUP and Lazarus got 9.89% of first preferences in Queensland. And Clive himself federally, as Palmer United, got 5.49% and became a minister in the House of Representatives. Now, here's the fun bit. Let's go and look at the Greens for a little moment, shall we? Now, Scott Ludlam, he got 9.49% of first preferences. Sarah Hanson-Young only got 7.09%. Larissa Waters, she got 12.76%. Go Larissa, good public servant, smart lady, I like her very much. Lee Rhiannon, 10.69%. But at the end of the day, they don't want you elected unless you win on primary votes. So are any of those results above that I've just talked about, are any of those higher than 14.29%? And remember, these aren't their own individual votes, which are much lower than the figures I quoted. These are theirs plus up to 6 other senators added together. So I say again, PUP spent $26 million and nobody managed to get the required 14.29% of primary votes. The Greens themselves primarily failed to get 14.29% without preferences. But Richard Di Natale and Malcolm Turnbull of the new Liberal Party expect us to believe that they aren't deliberately shutting ordinary people out of our government with this hatchet job. So if someone can explain to us how, if a multi-millionaire with all his resources, political connections and long donation history to have support already pre-existing can't win one seat on primaries, then how does Bob from the factory floor, Cheryl who owns a small business, or Jane who might, run dumpies in a mine, ever get elected? And we don't care how good your policies are. You're going against multi-million dollar media saturation campaigns the miners and majors run each and every election cycle. And that's without their dirt units smearing your name all over the country and then And then you have to get a quota that even currently serving members of major parties failed to get. You know it's true. Of course it is. Even the sanctimonious Greens could not do it, except for a select few. And that's why we say they're shafting micro parties and small independents. Because when there's nobody else to vote for, then all the votes go to them. That 30% swing in 2013 away from the Greens will have to swing back. Look, they know that for a year you might hate them, but eventually you will forget and come back. In fact, they're banking on it. So I ask you, how big a lie is it to be too big for the Greens after hearing Di Natale say this?
I'll start by saying I really like having a bit more diversity in the parliament. One of the big problems with our parliament is it's just dominated by a very narrow group of people, and having a bit more diversity in the parliament is a good thing. It's a really good thing.
And let's not forget Lee Rhiannon saying this at the recent Senate reform hearing to Glenn Jury.
And do you concede that it is a flawed electoral system if it provides an incentive for a person to register lots of parties because that provides electoral advantage?
As I recall, Senator, it was this so-called flawed electoral system that put you there in the first place, and quite a few, as I recall, political parties were set up by Greens sympathisers leading up to the 1990 election.
Well,
do you remember that, Senator?
Now, both those clips make us pretty certain that truth and transparency are definitely not on the Green agenda. This isn't about making it fair. No, it's not. It's about making sure the government can rise to unchallenged power. And this will deliver a UK-style government system to Australia. They're already talking about the ALP will be forced into a coalition with the Greens, so that's going to leave us with the ALP Greens versus the LNP Nationals, with Nick Xenophon in the middle holding the balance of power. Good old Nick, let's cut your penalty rates. Let's bring in the ABCC, because I didn't stand against that when all those dirty crossbenchers did.
We're here at the Bella Vista restaurant in Belconnen in the ACT, typical of many small businesses, thousands of small businesses around the country who are suffering because of penalty rates on weekends. It's always been my position that there needs to be greater flexibility for small employers, that in hospitality and retail, Saturdays and Sundays are pretty much ordinary trading days.
So let's have all that come to pass, then we'll go and see how first past the post works in England. The Greens in the UK are not a small party, but they will never win a seat. They can't, and that's what the Greens, along with Turnbull, want here in Australia. And it's all to shut out future competition. No thanks. We like the idea of an independent and honest man or woman getting a voice, not endless hand-picked, party-polished yes men and women, or following the party line no matter what. We've had that now for 20 plus years. When do the little people get hurt again? When do little people come first again? When is it about little people, not the major parties' hunger for power or their corporate sponsors' demands? But now, thanks to Richard and Malcolm's new liberal ideology, it never will be that, or anything like that, not ever again. Now, below are the links to the AEC Senate results for 2010 and 13. Go and see if we lied. Up top of each page, you can select results state by state, see what votes they got independently and what they got under the group ticket total. See for yourself how none of the mentioned, plus plenty more, did not get 14.29% majority. That Di Natale and his mate Malcolm claim is achievable to an outsider with little money and no public profile. They're lying to your face while stealing ordinary people's rights to object and challenge bad government in the only place that it matters. So, you know what, guys, no matter what happens, no matter how these reforms turn out and who gets wiped out by them, in 2016, TLC is asking you to send a message. Do not vote above the line, go below the line. Number your 1 to 12, and of those 12, if possible, make sure that you do not tick Greens and you do not tick Liberal. Leave them off the ballot. We say vote none for the newly formed Liberal Party. Thank you for watching.